The Senate will please come to order. We'll begin this morning with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? Seeing none, hearing none, we have one referral, House Bill H-106 being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state. Under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. This brings us right into the orders of the day. We have on the calendar today S-16, an act relating to the sale and use of fireworks. I'm going to kindly ask senators who are not speaking to mute. Thank you. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on page 2062 of today's calendar.
Madam President.
The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. You did say S-16, correct?
Yes.
It does not have anything to do with fireworks.
It does not have anything to do with fireworks. It does not. That is a funny thing in my script today. It is an act relating to the creation of the Task Force on Social Exclusionary Discipline Reform, not fireworks. The senator from Rutland, Senator Hooker, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Education. And just to recall, that the underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-16?
Thank you, Madam President. S-16 is an act relating to the creation of the Task Force on School Exclusionary Discipline Reform that passed the Senate on March 18th. It was returned to us from the House with a number of amendments, which your Committee on Education view as improvements to the bill. The changes add more inclusive findings, give a clearer explanation of the need for improved data collection, list particular members to the task force, give more specific guidance to the work of the task force, and finally, change the title of the bill to the Task Force on Equitable and Inclusive School Environments, indicating the legislative intent to make schools positive places that keep our students engaged. Madam President, your Committee on Education accepted the House changes made to S-16 on a vote of 6-0-0, and we ask the Senate to concur. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-16? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-16. We have on the calendar today S-124, an act relating to miscellaneous utility subjects. The House has proposed to the Senate to amend the bill as set forth on page 2070 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-124? The senator from Windsor, Senator McCormick, is recognized for the report.
Thank you, Madam President. This amendment amends Section 5 of S-124, which is a change to the income requirement for low-income programs for electricity customers. And the amendment changes the implementation date in one instance. And the reason for this is that Green Mountain Power already has such a program, and this would require of them that they do a lot of bureaucratic adjustments to comply. And the effective immediately date would not give them the time necessary. And so it's a fairly simple amendment to make the requirement of the bill workable for someone affected who's already doing the right thing. And we heard from a representative of the House committee who pointed out that the vote in committee in the House was unanimous, and it passed the full House at a unanimous voice vote. The vote in our committee was 401, it being late in the session, to recommend to the Senate that the Senate concur with the amendment and thereby pass the bill.
Thank you, Senator. The question then is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment on S-124? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've concurred with the House proposal of amendment on S-124. We have on the calendar for third reading, H-360. Third reading was ordered on May 11th. Are there any amendments before third reading? The senator from Windham, Senator White, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Senate Government Operations Committee looked at a few areas in H-360 at the request of the Finance Committee and others. As a result, we offer this simple amendment to Section 11. What Section 11 does is to make it clear that communication union districts have the same exemptions to public records requests regarding trade secrets and other proprietary information as do other municipalities. But the second sentence in that paragraph shall be available for public inspection after project completion could be a real problem for the CUDs in a couple ways. First, if the CUD has to disclose its records once a project is completed, it could impact ongoing or future projects that may use some of the same information. Also, the release of information could prevent other entities from working with the CUD, knowing that eventually their own trade secrets would be made public. Additionally, this provision does not apply to the exemption information of any other municipality. So this is carving out for the CUDs this exemption, this requirement to make public their information. So we are requesting support for this amendment that would simply remove the second sentence of Section 11. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate
President.
The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I polled the members of this Finance Committee. One member would like us, at least one member, to have the opportunity to discuss this amendment. So I'm going to ask that we pass over until tomorrow so that Finance can have a chance to discuss it.
Given that the amendment has already been introduced, I would suggest that there be a vote and that be a motion for a vote. Is that correct?
Just postpone action until tomorrow.
It would just be to postpone action until tomorrow.
Okay, then I would move that we postpone action until tomorrow.
And the senator from Chittenden is recognized.
A point of inquiry, Madam President. This is so tricky when we're not together in the room. But I'm worried about delaying a day on this very important bill so late in session. And I wonder if anyone might tell me if it would be conceivable to delay till later today, or if there's any option that doesn't cost us a day.
I think I've conferred with the secretary, and it's possible certainly to postpone consideration until later in the day, but the motion has already been made for the consideration to be taken up tomorrow. So the motion would need to be withdrawn if that's the case.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay.
Is it possible to set up, normally, finance would go huddle in the corner of the room and discuss this. And so I'm wondering, is it possible to set up a side room that we could huddle in, or to recess at some point in the day so that we could meet for a few minutes?
Let me confer with the secretary just a moment. I think what we'll do is move through today's calendar. If the question or issue isn't resolved, we'll recess at the end and then come back in a half an hour or so, or whatever amount of time is necessary for the committee to meet.
Okay.
Great. So
Thank
the
you,
motion,
Madam.
Thank you. The motion has been withdrawn, and without objection, we will pass over H360 for now and move on to H435. We have on the calendar for third reading H435. Third reading was ordered on March 11th. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H435.
H435, an act relating to miscellaneous Department of Corrections related amendments.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H435 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for action H140, read for the first time on May 4th. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H140.
H140, an act relating to approval of amendments to the charter of the town of Williston.
The senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. The charter amendments contain one proposal from Williston. The proposal is found in Section 2 of the bill and amends Section 16 of the charter, and would make the office of the library director an appointed position. The town manager would appoint the library director with the advice and consent of the Board of Library Trustees. There's also a technical correction in this section. It corrects a cross-reference within the charter. The vote was taken on town meeting day in 2020. The vote was 2,437 in favor and 493 opposed. The Government Operations Committee heard from our legislative counsel, Tucker Anderson. The committee vote was 5-0-0, and we ask the Senate to concur. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question then is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H140. We have on the calendar for action H445, read for the first time on April 30th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H445.
H445, an act relating to approval of an amendment to the charter of the town of Underhill.
The senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is further recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. So the charter amendments add a new subchapter 6 to the Underhill Charter governing the town's recall election procedures. The amendment provides that a recall election may be held pursuant to the following procedures. A petition for the recall must be filed with the town clerk. The petition must be signed by a minimum of 15% of the registered voters of the town. The petition may name multiple officers who may be subject to the recall. Within 45 days, the select board shall call a special town meeting to allow the voters to vote on the recall. That vote shall be held by Australian ballot. The officer shall cease to hold office if a majority of the ballots cast approve the recall. The vacancy in the office shall be filled as provided by general law. For most elected offices, this would mean that the select board appoints an officer to fill the vacancy until a subsequent election may be held. An emergency or special election may also be held to fill the vacancy. An officer may be named in a recall petition only once in a 12-month period. For background, there are other towns with different thresholds for recall provisions, which I can go into if folks want. The voters approved the proposal of amendment on town meeting day on March 2nd by a vote of 697 to 92. The committee heard from Representative Robert Cooper and our legislative counsel Tucker Anderson. The committee vote was 5-0-0, and we asked the Senate to concur. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 445. We have on the calendar for action H 225, read for the first time on April 14th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on page 2071 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 225.
H 225, an act relating to possession of a therapeutic dosage of buprenorphine.
The senator from Bennington, Senator Sears, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm to be totally honest, when this bill first passed the House of Representatives and got referred to the Rules Committee, I was very relieved because I didn't think it was something I could support. But events happen, and you listen to testimony, and a bill that I expected to vote against and never be reporting as the testimony, quite frankly, was so compelling that it turned my mind, and I think it's an example of the process going the right way. Madam President, I'm going to talk, if it's okay, I'd like to talk to the amendment, which is the bill now, to strike all amendment, but there are really only three changes. So before I get into the changes, I'd like to read parts of an email that I received from someone I knew years ago. And it touches me, and as I read this letter, I think we all will better understand why the removal of criminal penalties for the possession of small amounts of buprenorphine is the right step for Vermont. So, Madam President, if I might.
Without objection, you may.
Thank you. I'm not sure if you remember me. I remember you well from 204 Depot Street as a teenager. Today, I'm clean and sober for 5 years, and I have a wife and 2 boys. We're raising our boys differently than we were raised, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm also a small business owner. I want to write you tonight as I just found out you're a senator, and I was so excited because I knew you from Depot Street. As I have a personal connection to you, I wanted to reach out to tell you how much I believe in this bill. I also know firsthand through my own experiences that even when people have treatment options, they sometimes don't access it, or they start and stop and often get kicked out I think there's a perception that we have a ton of treatment options available, and that if people want treatment bad enough, they will access it. What people don't realize is how almost impossible it is for some folks to get the treatment that they need. We often hear about immediate access and low barrier programs, but the truth is there aren't enough of these very low barrier programs. And also emergency room access can be great, but not very many people will do that. People hate the emergency room. I know I hate going myself. I've known people who have waited many hours in the emergency room for buprenorphine, feeling embarrassed the whole time. And then they get a couple of days of Suboxone and a referral to the University of Vermont Medical Center program, which is ATP, which is a very high barrier and has a requirement that people are stable and not using. So the low barrier entry point gives people a high barrier referral, and people are back out on the street using in a couple of days. So where did that get them or get the community? Nowhere better. They're at a huge risk of dying. Also, when it comes to traditional office spoke programs, I've had many friends be kicked out for relapses, use or small infractions, and be told to leave and go to the clinic. This doesn't work for everyone. Most of my friends work and can't make the daily dosing requirement at the clinic. For example, people who still struggle with use here and there. Plus, they stop dosing at 10 a.m. on the dot for buprenorphine and 11 a.m. for methadone. Many people can't make that work. Well, Senator Sears, I just wanted to tell you what an important part of my journey bupe was, even when it wasn't prescribed. I also wanted to say hi and tell you what an important part of my life 204 Depot Street was. I feel so lucky that I got to be a part of it. Maybe one day when things calm down with COVID, I'll come to the State House with my wife. I would love to say hi to you and reintroduce myself. Madam President, that I think is the type of testimony that the Committees on Health and Welfare and Judiciary heard at our joint meeting. Getting to the bill itself, as it came over from the other body, we made three basic changes. There was some confusion in the bill as presented to us that had a statement about decriminalizing. And our experience with decriminalizing was when we decriminalized marijuana. And we set up a system where you receive civil tickets. This does not provide a civil ticket for possession of small amounts of buprenorphine, 224 milligrams, which is a roughly 10-day supply. So the committee changed that term to remove criminal penalties for the possession of 224 milligrams or less of buprenorphine. Part of the testimony that we heard was from three different state's attorneys from three different parts of the state. And basically, they have decriminalized the possession of small amounts of buprenorphine. Very rarely are they even charged. And if they are, they're referred to diversion. So what they basically have already done in the system without our passing this legislation is to decriminalize or legalize very small amounts. Again, this is if this passes and you possess over 224 milligrams, it's still a misdemeanor. And the basic is 100 times that 224 milligrams to get to a felony stage of possession. We also changed the effective date. I think both committees became convinced that if this is an important tool to have, why wait till July 1st to make it effective? And so we made the bill effective on passage. But because it questions our entire treatment system, the one where we think we're being open, and as that letter or email suggests, we have a long way to go before we can reach folks who are in dire need. And obviously, the increase in the deaths from opiate dependence during the pandemic has been huge in both Vermont and everywhere in the nation. So we have a sunset of July 1, 2023. I can't predict what will happen, whether it'll just be extended or whether they'll eliminate the sunset in the future legislature. But this does force the next legislature to take a good hard look at this issue and whether or not we are providing the alternative to heroin and fentanyl. Madam President, the vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee was 5-0-0, and we encourage the Senate to support the bill as presented. Thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? The senior senator from Chittenden is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to speak on behalf of the Senate Health and Welfare Committee, who worked alongside of...
Excuse me, Senator, I'm sorry. I'm going to kindly ask, I think we caught it, but just if you're not speaking, just kindly mute today. Thanks. You may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Would like to offer some comments related to the bill as we took testimony along with Senate Judiciary. And to put this into a broader context, between September 2019 and September 2020, nationally, there was a 28% increase in overdose deaths in the so that's the United States. That's 88,000 lives lost to overdose. Vermont, between the ages of 25 and 54, has one of the highest rates in the country. So we're not immune from what's going on, and we have seen the overdose deaths increase in our state during the pandemic. When we think about the replacement of buprenorphine for heroin laced with fentanyl, we understand that that drug, heroin laced with fentanyl, is the leading cause of overdose deaths. Heroin causes euphoria. It causes a depression and respiratory rate, and the more heroin someone takes, the greater the depression, and then that can lead to OD. Buprenorphine is a drug that causes less of a respiratory depression, so fewer ODs. So from a medical point of view, it makes sense to ensure that folks who have a chronic illness of addiction are more apt to be on buprenorphine than to seek out a street drug such as heroin laced with fentanyl. Patients feel the stigma associated with the criminalization and the criminal action against them when they have a buprenorphine in high amounts. So, and we know that patients are on waiting lists to get treatment in this state, which to our committee is unacceptable. We also know that buprenorphine is not a gateway drug. We know that for kids under the age of 17, we don't see a high addiction rate. And we also know that buprenorphine is not one of those drugs that, when it is used, that will lead to addictive uses. As we took testimony, some of the things that we heard that are related to improving our system include the waiting list that patients are put on when they're seeking treatment. And when you seek treatment, and when you're after it, when you're addicted to a drug, you need to have that treatment when you ask for it. To have a waiting list is unfortunate and in many ways unconscionable. We also heard that there are transportation issues, that folks can't get to the treatment that they need because they don't have the treatment facilities accessible in their communities. The low barrier safe recovery program that was mentioned in the testimony that the senator from Bennington read is truly an issue for us. There's only one such safe recovery center in the state that happens to be in Burlington. We know that the age of addiction really between the ages of 25 and 54 affects people, affects their jobs, affects their families, affects their kids. So this bill will help to allow for people to use a drug that is less harmful. It will allow for folks to seek treatment when they are under the age of 16 and to be averted away from continued use. So, Madam President, and we also know that the drug of choice, buprenorphine, the Suboxone that's being utilized in our state also contains Narcan, which helps to limit any overdose if someone were to proceed to take additional opioids while they're on Suboxone. So the bill before us from the health and welfare perspective is important, and your Committee on Health and Welfare voted 5-0-0 to support the work of the Judiciary Committee, and we look forward to continuing our work to limit the overdoses in our state and to improve the system of care for folks who have this chronic illness. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question? Again, the question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary? I'll kindly ask senators to unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. My message this morning to senators is simple, which is we're taking this action because we are all, every single one of us, every single community is impacted by this health emergency. And I'm grateful to the chairs of both the committees of jurisdiction for understanding that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 225. We have on the calendar for action H 313, read for the first time on March 25th. It was referred to the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on pages 2073 to 2078 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs, and further, that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 313.
H 313. An act relating to miscellaneous amendments to alcoholic beverage laws.
The senator from Windsor, Senator Clarkson, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs.
Thank you, Madam President. As Senate Economic Development has a strike-all amendment to H 313, which people can find on page 2073 of today's calendar. May I speak to the amendment, Madam President?
You may.
Thank you. H 313 is this year's annual miscellaneous liquor and lottery bill. It includes changes to law, expansions of current law, and explorations for future action. And while it's a miscellaneous bill with 7 sections, it does have sort of an overarching theme, and that relates to service, expanding or further enabling service. The first section expands the service manufacturers of distilled spirits can offer at a competitive and fair price. Instead of being able to only serve a sample size, a quarter of an ounce drink, With a fourth-class license, they will now be able to offer a full pour drink and get a third-class license required for this kind of a drink at a fee comparable to breweries and vineyards. Currently, if a distiller wants to establish an on-site location for the sale of full pours of a spirit, the distiller must obtain a third-class license in addition to their manufacturing license. A manufacturer's license costs $285. The third-class license costs $1,095. However, a brewer or vintner or cider maker in a similar situation may obtain a first-class license to serve their product for $230. This amendment lowers the third-class license for a distiller to do the same thing brewers, cider makers, and vintners do at the same price of $230. This section also establishes that a municipality may assess a $50 fee for a standalone third-class license holder. These are establishments which sell only spirits or fortified wines for on-premise consumption. Bars, restaurants, dining cars, or manufacturers, distillers. Municipalities are responsible for administering liquor licenses, and this compensates them for this standalone license work, which hitherto they have not been able to benefit from. The second section extends the very successful pandemic service for to-go drinks for 2 years, with a report in 2 years from the Department of Liquor and Lottery to evaluate the program. It has some parameters. It authorizes the delivery and curbside pickup of alcoholic beverages. And it allows for first and third class licenses to offer alcoholic beverages for delivery and curbside pickup, provided that the alcoholic beverages are accompanied by a food order, that the container has a tamper-evident seal, is labeled as alcohol, and lists the ingredients and serving size of the beverage. Second-class licensees to offer curbside pickup of the alcoholic beverages that are allowed to sell pursuant to their license, beer, wine, and fortified wines. These are retail locations like grocery stores or convenience stores. The Department of Liquor and Lottery may allow their beverage 802 agents to sell spirits for curbside pickup under separate authority. Fourth class licenses, which are sampling sites and manufacturers, are able to offer curbside pickup of alcoholic beverages and are allowed to sell pursuant to their license as well. And all licensees are permitted to do this in the hours they may offer delivery or pickup. And the board is given rulemaking authority to implement this section. So that is section 2. Section 3 clarifies and modernizes the festival permit statute. This was confusing as to whether this permit applied to all festivals where alcohol was served, and it clarifies that only festivals whose primary purpose is to serve samples of alcoholic beverages are required to get a permit. And it clarifies what they can charge and how much they are allowed to serve. This section was passed by the House last year, but we didn't have time to take it up. It clarifies that permit holders must charge a minimum $5 fee for entry, limit the total amount of alcoholic beverages served to an individual attendee based on the type of alcoholic beverages served at the festival. And they break it down. Malt beverages, 12 ounces, wine beverages, maximum of 5 ounces, fortified wines, spirits, and a combined festival that does many of these different types has a total of 6 U.S. standard drinks containing 3.6 fluid ounces. The festival must comply with all other provisions of Title VII. Section 4 enables a sampling service for the staff of restaurants and bars. This allows the staff at a restaurant or bar to sample alcoholic beverages brought to them for consideration so that they can think about whether or not they want to offer them on their menus by manufacturers or wholesale dealers as part of their work. It amends the statute to allow manufacturers to serve samples of their product to the management and staff of first and second class licensees. And I'll just remind you that those are on-premise bars and restaurants. Without the staff having to take the rest of the day off, which it currently requires. They will simply have to give the Department of Liquor and Lottery a 48-hour notice of the sampling event. This section was also passed last year by the House, and we didn't have time to deal with it. Section 5 waives the first and third class license fees for veteran or fraternal clubs for 2021. Because of COVID-19, many of these clubs, or most of them, were closed from March of 2020 to March of 2021. And this, we feel, is a service for those who've served. Section 6 will be session law and contains 2 reports. The first report is to be conducted by the Office of Legislative Counsel and the JFO and concerns sports betting. It's due back October 15th of this year. It's estimated that over 100,000 Vermonters presently participate in some form of sports betting each year. Many place bets with offshore companies, which provide absolutely no protection for Vermonters. This can mean not getting paid when they win, having their bet stolen, or worse, having their banking information and identity stolen. The report will provide an analysis of sports betting laws in each state that has an active or proposed sports betting market, studies concerning the legalization, taxation, and regulation of sports betting, models for regulation of sports betting that are currently operating in other states, a state-by-state analysis of the revenue generated by sports betting, and any reports of information concerning the impact on problem gambling. This report will inform us, helping us in our deliberation about the pros and cons of having a legal, well-regulated sports betting market. The second report concerns the alcoholic beverage to-go program established in Section 2. The intent of this report is that DLL will have measurable data with which to assess this program, including economic and public safety impacts resulting from the program. DLL will collect data from licensees in order to support the study. The report is due back to the legislature in January of 2023. Section 7 are the effective dates. July 1st of this year for all sections except the 2-year sunset in Section 2 and the 1-year waiver of the club fees in Section 5. Our committee heard from 12 witnesses, Legislative Counsel, the other bodies, reporter of the bill, the executive director of the Department of State's Attorneys and Sheriffs, the commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery, the deputy commissioner, the new deputy commissioner, the chief officer of the Joint Fiscal Office, the owner of Higher Ground, the commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, the owner of Hermit Thrush Brewery, and president of the Vermont Brewers Association, the vice president of tourism for the Vermont Chamber of Commerce, and the deputy chief of police in Hartford. Our vote was 5-0-0, and we would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Sirotkin, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator from Windsor. There were 3 sections of this bill that dealt with fees. Section 1, these have all been outlined by the senator from Windsor. Section 1 is the local processing fee, $50 to pay the municipalities for their work that they're presently not getting paid for. In Section 1 also is the manufacturer's rectifier's third-class fee, which we lowered after a year from $1,095 to $230 to make comparable with brewers and vintners. And in Section 5 is the waiver for 1 year of the club fee for third class licenses for COVID
related shutdowns. We heard from Tucker Anderson from Legislative Counsel, and the committee vote in Finance to concur with the Economic Development Report was 6-0-1.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 313. We have on the calendar for action Joint House Resolution 2, read for the first time on April 2nd, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Government Operations, which reports it has considered the resolution and recommends that the resolution be amended as set forth on pages 2078 to 2080 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the resolution ought to pass, Please listen to the second reading of the resolution.
JRH 2, joint resolution sincerely apologizing and expressing sorrow and regret to all individual Vermonters and their families and descendants who were harmed as a result of state-sanctioned eugenics policies and practices.
The senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam President. Since I first came to the Senate 7 years ago, I've spent my afternoons each year in the Government Operations Committee. It is a committee that addresses many diverse issues and is ably, diligently, and thoughtfully chaired by the senior senator from the Windham District. Some of the bills that come out of the committee are more or less housekeeping measures or non-controversial type bills, and some a bit more substantive. This resolution, I believe, the full Senate will find moving and disturbing at the same time. It's important to understand what this resolution addresses. Madam President, may I quote part of the testimony that Representative Stevens presented to the committee, which was part of his floor report?
You may.
Thank you. Representative Stevens gives us this historic look, and I quote, "The word eugenics was coined in the 1870s by a nephew of Charles Darwin and was introduced as a concept to Vermont in the early 1900s, related first to the improvement of plants and to the better breeding of animals. This concept of better breeding using genetics and heredity was soon adopted by some scientists across the country as a means of human betterment, as well as better human beings. At the beginning, the theory of eugenics was wide-ranging. It was thought that we could study everyone from every walk of life and determine how to make a better stock. And as a theory, it started out in the spirit of discovery. Later, as it evolved, it relied on what we call social sciences, sociology and social work, to further the well-being of humans. But then it turned, and it turned with the help and coordination of policies instituted and laws passed by the Vermont General Assembly. When we think about eugenics, the first thing we think about is sterilization. And while sterilization plays a major part of the eugenics story, it's important to know that the Vermont General Assembly created elements of eugenics by segregation and institutionalization. We removed children from their families involuntarily. We removed adults from their families involuntarily. We placed restrictions on marriage, and we did it on a discriminatory basis. We did not apply these same principles of delinquency, dependency, and deficiency to everyone, only the poor, those deemed by others to have defects, and those who were clearly of a different ethnicity than those making the determinations. In order to pass the bills that created our state-sanctioned eugenics policies and practices, legislators and government officials worked with strong lobbying organizations, created legislation, took testimony, and had communications with the leaders of these institutions, as well as from local officials. End quote. All of this took place, Madam President, in an era known as the Progressive Era. Dr. Charlene Galarno, a resident now of Newfane, Vermont, who received her PhD from the Harvard Medical School, testified, I'm paraphrasing her words to say that eugenic policies and practices in Vermont included the involuntary institutionalization of children and adults in multiple state-established and funded hospitals, schools, and prisons. And one tragedy of this so-called progressive era is that significant harm was done in the name of human betterment. In other words, what was thought to be the right thing. The Senate Government Operations Committee also heard from Tanya Marshall, State Archivist and Director of the Vermont State Archives and Records Administration. Reading from her testimony, one can see a clear and convincing chronological listing of the existence of records dating from 1910 to 1970, which provide historical information and context that legislators may find relevant to this resolution. These include every bill and every final act, records of the Eugenics Survey of Vermont, sterilization certifications, case files of individuals at Vermont institutions, and Vermont newspaper reports regarding eugenics, as well as House and Senate journals. And I would be glad to share her report with other senators, and I thank her for doing the research. So now, Madam President, I want to read the strike all Senate amendment to the House resolution. Your Government Operations Committee has taken hours of testimony. The other body did as well. We wish to invite the entire Senate to, first of all, recognize our complicity in what transpired, to apologize for what may have seemed reasonable at one time, but clearly was anything but, and to begin the healing process. The strike all resolution reads this way. Whereas beginning in the early 1900s, laws and associated policies were adopted to promote the eugenics movement, and the title of the book, Breeding Better Vermonters by Nancy Gallagher, accurately describes the movement's purported intent. And whereas this movement targeted for elimination those it deemed currently or potentially delinquent, defective, and dependent persons through sterilizations, primarily of women, to prevent individuals from having children. And whereas in 1912, the Vermont General Assembly passed Senate Bill 79, an act to authorize and provide for the sterilization of imbeciles, feeble-minded, and insane persons, rapists, confirmed criminals, and other defectives. That was vetoed by then Governor Alan Fletcher, citing constitutional concerns that Attorney General Rufus Brown had raised. And whereas, nevertheless, state agencies and institutions adopted policies and procedures to carry out the very intent of the vetoed legislation and the beliefs of the eugenics movement. And whereas in 1925, UVM zoology professor Henry F. Perkins, who established the Eugenics Survey of Vermont and served as president of the Vermont and American Eugenics Society, collaborated with leaders of Vermont state government to collect evidence of Vermonters' alleged delinquency, dependency, and deficiency. And whereas these state-sanctioned policies targeted the poor and persons with mental and physical disabilities, and whereas these same policies also targeted individuals, families, and communities whose heritage was documented as French-Canadian, French-Indian, or of other mixed ethnic or racial composition, and persons whose extended family successor generations now identify as Abnaki or as members of other indigenous bands or tribes. And whereas in 1927, S-59, an act relating to voluntary eugenical sterilization, passed the Senate, but was defeated in the House. And whereas the General Assembly adopted 1931 Acts and Resolves number 174, an act for human betterment by voluntary sterilization for the purpose of eliminating from the future Vermont genetic pool persons deemed mentally unfit to procreate. And whereas this state-sanctioned eugenics policy was not an isolated example of oppression, but reflected the historic marginalization, discriminatory treatment, and displacement of those targeted groups in Vermont. And whereas eugenics advocates promoted sterilization for the protection of Vermont's, quote, old stock, end quote, and to preserve the physical and social environment of Vermont for their children. And whereas the eugenics survey received assistance from state and municipal officials, individuals, and private organizations, and the resulting sterilization, institutionalization, and separation policies intruded on the lives of its victims and had devastating and irreversible impacts that still persist in the lives of targeted groups, and especially the descendants of those who were directly impacted. And whereas in conducting the eugenics survey, the surveyors were granted access to case files from state agencies and institutions, and the files were made available to persons of authority, including police departments, social workers, educators, and town officials. And whereas as a result of the opening of these files, children and adults were removed from families, individuals were institutionalized or incarcerated, family connections were severed, and the sense of kinship, continuity, and community was lost. And finally, whereas the legacy of the eugenics movement continues to influence some of Vermont's current policies and legislation, now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and the House of Representatives that the General Assembly sincerely apologizes and expresses sorrow and regret to all individual Vermonters and their families and descendants who were harmed as a result of state-sanctioned eugenics policies and practices, and be it further resolved that the General Assembly continues to work to eradicate the lasting legacy of its prior actions by listening to and working with the affected individuals and communities, and be it further resolved that the General Assembly recognizes that further legislative action should be taken to address the continuing impact of state-sanctioned eugenics policies and related practices of disenfranchisement, ethnocide, and genocide. Madam President, we heard from Susan Aronoff, the Senior Planner and Policy Analyst of the Vermont Developmental Disabilities Council, Doug Bent, a member of the Coax Tribe and Commissioner of the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs, Michael Chernick, Legislative Counsel, Judy Dow, the author of Understanding the Vermont Eugenics Survey and Its Impacts Today, Rich Holzchuk, the Executive Director of the Atowi Project, Carol Irons, Abnaki Elder, Tanya Marshall, the State Archivist, Carol McCanagran, who is Chair of the Vermont Commission on Native American Affairs. The committee vote was 5-0-0, and I ask that when the vote is taken, Madam President, it be taken by roll call. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. There has been a request by the senator from Rutland that there be a roll call vote. First, the question. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the resolution as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? I may clarify with you, Senator Collmore, would you like the roll call on the amendment or third reading?
Third reading is fine, Madam President.
Okay, then we'll come back to you for third reading. And I believe the senator from Orange wishes to be recognized. The senator from Orange is recognized. Nope, okay.
Senator McCormick.
The senator from Windsor is recognized. Senator McCormick.
No, I wish to speak after the amendment.
Okay. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Sirotkin, is recognized.
Same for me, Madam President.
Okay. Then the question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the resolution, as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House to amend the resolution as recommended by the Committee on Government Operations. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windsor is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of the resolution. In our citizen legislature, we all come with our own respective backgrounds, and I rise as a retired teacher of history, including Vermont history. And I think one of the most important parts of the study of history and just thinking about history and dealing with history is very simply that we tell the truth. We need to tell the good truth to honor those who deserve to be honored and to inspire ourselves and future generations. But we also need to tell the bad stuff, because confession is good for your soul, but also because if we don't address the bad stuff, we don't have a clear understanding. The singer Joni Mitchell used the phrase, lies, pretty lies. And she was talking about personal relationships, but it's true about a society as well. And our understanding of our history is full of lies, pretty lies. And we need to tell the truth. There are those who think that we're being too negative and that we're denigrating our state or denigrating our nation by telling the truth. I think it's more like when my kids were little, if I disciplined them sometimes, my little boy would cry and he'd say, "You don't love me," because I was pointing out that he had behaved badly. And I would say, no, I'm pointing out that you're behaving badly precisely because I do love you. And the fact is, eugenics happened. It was disgraceful. And we need to own it. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Sirotkin, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise on a personal note. This issue was part of my household for decades, starting in the 1970s. Many of you remember and have served with my late wife, former Representative Senator and Representative Sally Fox. She started her career in 1986 in the legislature, and several members of the Senate served with her in the House then, and many have served with her in the Senate when she became a senator in 2010. What you might not know is that when she first came to Vermont in the mid-'70s, she became the director of the Disabilities Law Project at Vermont Legal Aid, and one of her roles on an individual basis was to trek down to Brandon every other day and represent residents of that facility. In 1980, she moved to become a lobbyist for an organization that was then called the Association of Retarded Citizens. And she worked for 6 years for that organization. And she and a woman named Joan Sylvester would come in the State House religiously every day trying to argue for reform of the sterilization laws in the state of Vermont. And stories would come home to me that would amaze you this day about some people you would think of as being very progressive legislators back then, in some cases even belittling them for trying to change Vermont laws. So I just want to say how proud and fulfilled she would be by this apology and the work of the Senate Government Operations Committee. I think it would bring tears to her eyes at this point. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Are you ready for the question?
Roll call.
Thank you. The senator from Rutland has requested a roll call vote. Again, the question is, shall the resolution be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? The secretary is kindly asked to call the roll.
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baru.
Yes.
Senator Benning.
Yes.
Senator Bray.
Yes.
Senator Brock.
Yes.
Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Chittenden.
Aye.
Senator Clarkson.
Yes.
Senator Collimore.
Yes.
Senator Cummings.
Yes.
Senator Hardy.
Yes.
Senator Hooker.
Yes.
Senator Ingalls.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator McDonald.
Yes.
Senator Mazza.
Yes.
Senator McCormack.
Yes.
Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Parent.
Yes.
Senator Pearson.
Yes.
Senator Perschlick.
Yes.
Senator Polina.
Yes.
Senator Rahm.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes.
Senator Sirotkin.
Yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini. Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator White.
Yes.
Senator Terenzini.
Please listen to the results of your vote. The yeas, 29, the nays, 0, and you've ordered third reading of JRH 2. There has been a request to pass over S 115, and without objection, we will do so. I may now come back to the senator from Washington, Senator Cummings, regarding H 360 and what she would like us to do.
Madam President, we have set up a Zoom, all the members of the committee, and I believe Senator White have been sent an email with the Zoom link. If we could recess for a half an hour, I think the committee could meet, understand the amendment, and then be ready to report on it.
Okay, great. Maybe we'll add 5 minutes in for a water and bathroom break if folks need that, and come back at 11:45.
That sounds fun.
Great.